Once upon a time, there was a legend about a great treasure hidden deep within the heart of a dense, mysterious forest. The treasure was said to be guarded by a powerful enchantress who had woven spells of protection around it to keep it safe from prying eyes and greedy hands. For centuries, many brave adventurers had attempted to find the treasure, but none had succeeded. Some had been lost in the forest, while others had fallen prey to the enchantress's traps and delusions. But the legend of the treasure lived on, and many still sought to claim it for themselves. One day, a young woman named Kier decided to embark on her own quest for the treasure. She had always been fascinated by stories of adventure and mystery, and she felt that this was her chance to prove herself as a true adventurer. With a map in hand and a sense of determination in her heart, Kier set out into the forest, determined to find the treasure and claim it as her own. The forest was dense and tangled, and it was easy to get lost among the twisting paths and dense undergrowth. But Kier was undeterred, and she pressed on, following the clues on the map and trusting in her instincts. As she walked deeper into the forest, Kier began to notice strange things happening around her. Trees seemed to shift and move when she wasn't looking, and the sounds of rustling leaves and cracking branches seemed to follow her everywhere she went. But she kept her focus on the task at hand, determined to stay on course and find the treasure. Finally, after many long hours of searching, Kier came upon a clearing in the forest. In the center of the clearing stood a tall stone tower, its walls covered in vines and moss. Kier felt a thrill of excitement run through her as she realized that this must be the place where the treasure was hidden. But as she approached the tower, Kier felt a sudden chill run down her spine. There was something eerie and unsettling about the way the tower seemed to loom over her, as if it were alive and watching her every move. Undeterred, Kier stepped inside the tower and began to climb the winding staircase that led to the top. As she climbed, she could feel the enchantress's magic weaving around her, trying to confuse and bewilder her. But Kier was determined, and she pressed on, her heart racing with anticipation. Finally, she reached the top of the tower, and there, in the center of the room, lay the treasure. It was a magnificent golden chest, decorated with glittering jewels and precious gems. Kier could hardly believe her eyes as she approached the chest, feeling the weight of the treasure in her hands. But just as she reached out to claim the treasure, she felt a sudden gust of wind blow through the room. The enchantress had awoken from her slumber, and she was determined to protect the treasure at all costs. Kier was no match for the enchantress's powerful magic, and she was forced to flee the tower empty-handed. But as she made her way back through the forest, she felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. She had proven herself as a true adventurer, and she knew that one day she would return to claim the treasure as her own. Treasure hunt on the high seas. In the golden age of piracy, a legendary pirate captain named Blackbeard ruled the seas, terrorizing ships and amassing a vast fortune and treasure. But when Blackbeard died, his treasure was said to have been buried on a remote island, never to be found again. Years passed, and the legend of Blackbeard's treasure continued to grow. Many adventurers and treasure hunters tried to find it, but none succeeded. And so the treasure remained hidden, waiting for someone brave and determined enough to uncover its secrets. One day, a young sailor named Jack decided to set out on a quest to find Blackbeard's treasure. He had heard the stories of the treasure all his life, and he felt that he was destined to be the one to find it. Jack gathered a crew of trusted sailors and set sail for the island where the treasure was said to be hidden. The journey was long and perilous, with storms and sea monsters threatening to sink their ship at every turn. But Jack and his crew were determined, and they pressed on, driven by the promise of untold riches. Finally, after many weeks at sea, they arrived at the island. It was a desolate, rocky place with steep cliffs and treacherous currents. But Jack was undeterred, and he led his crew onto the shore, determined to find the treasure. They searched the island from top to bottom, following clues and deciphering cryptic messages left by Blackbeard himself. They battled fierce wildlife and treacherous terrain, and they even had to face off against rival treasure hunters who had also come in search of the legendary treasure. But Jack and his crew were brave and resourceful, and they eventually found the entrance to the secret cave where the treasure was hidden. It was a treacherous path, filled with traps and puzzles designed to keep intruders out. But Jack and his crew were determined, and they pressed on, solving each challenge and overcoming every obstacle in their way. Finally, they arrived at the heart of the cave where the treasure lay waiting. It was a vast hoard of gold and jewels piled high in glittering stacks. Jack and his crew could hardly believe their eyes as they approached the treasure, feeling the weight of it in their hands. But just as they were about to claim their prize, they heard a rumble from deep within the cave. Blackbeard's spirit had awoken, and he was determined to protect his treasure at all costs. Jack and his crew were no match for the ghostly pirate's powerful magic, and they were forced to flee the cave empty-handed. But as they made their way back to their ship, they felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. They had proven themselves as true adventurers, and they knew that one day they would return to claim Blackbeard's treasure as their own. Treasure hunt in the depths of the jungle. deep in the heart of the dense jungle, there lay a hidden treasure that had been lost for centuries. Many adventurers had tried to find it, but none had succeeded. The jungle was filled with deadly creatures, treacherous terrain, and ancient ruins, all of which made the search for the treasure a daunting task. But one day, a team of explorers led by a man named Robert set out on a mission to find the lost treasure. They were well-equipped and well-trained with years of experience in jungle exploration. Robert had spent his entire life searching for this treasure, and he was determined to be the one to find it. The team traveled deep into the jungle, hacking their way through thick foliage and navigating treacherous rivers. They encountered all manner of dangers, from venomous snakes to swarms of biting insects, but they pressed on, driven by the promise of untold riches. As they journeyed deeper into the jungle, they began to find clues that pointed them towards the location of the treasure. They discovered ancient maps, deciphered cryptic inscriptions, and followed the stories of local tribes who knew of the treasure's existence. Finally, after many weeks of searching, the team arrived at a hidden valley deep in the heart of the jungle. It was a place of great beauty, with sparkling waterfalls, lush vegetation, and towering cliffs. But they knew that danger lurked within the valley, and they prepared themselves for what lay ahead. The team searched the valley, following clues and deciphering ancient puzzles. They explored hidden caves and scaled steep cliffs, facing all manner of dangers along the way. But they were determined, and they pressed on, driven by the hope of finding the treasure. Finally, after many long days of searching, they stumbled upon an ancient temple hidden deep within the valley. The temple was a place of great mystery and power, filled with priceless artifacts and golden treasures. But they soon discovered that they were not alone in the temple. A group of ruthless treasure hunters had also come in search of the treasure, and they were determined to stop Robert and his team from claiming it. A fierce battle ensued, with the two teams fighting tooth and nail for control of the temple. It was a dangerous and deadly struggle, with both sides suffering heavy losses. But in the end, Robert and his team emerged victorious, claiming the treasure as their own. As they made their way out of the jungle, their pockets full of gold and jewels, Robert and his team felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. They had braved incredible dangers and overcome impossible odds, and they had found the treasure that had eluded so many before them. In the heart of the forest, there lay a treasure that had been lost for generations. Many people had tried to find it, but none had succeeded. The woods were filled with dense undergrowth, hidden paths, and treacherous terrain, making the search for the treasure an almost impossible task. But one day, a group of adventurers led by a man named Jack set out on a mission to find the lost treasure. They were well-equipped and well-trained, with years of experience in forest exploration. Jack had spent his entire life searching for this treasure, and he was determined to be the one to find it. The team traveled deep into the woods, cutting their way through dense vegetation and navigating winding paths. They encountered all manner of dangers, from wild animals to hidden traps, but they pressed on, driven by the promise of untold riches. As they journeyed deeper into the forest, they began to find clues that pointed them towards the location of the treasure. They discovered ancient maps, deciphered cryptic inscriptions, and followed the stories of local villagers who knew of the treasure's existence. Finally, after many weeks of searching, they arrived at a clearing deep in the heart of the forest. It was a place of great beauty, with towering trees, sparkling streams, and a peaceful atmosphere. But they knew that danger lurked within the forest, and they prepared themselves for what lay ahead. The team searched the clearing, following clues and deciphering ancient puzzles. They explored hidden caves and scaled steep cliffs, facing all manner of dangers along the way. But they were determined, and they pressed on, driven by the hope of finding the treasure. Finally, after many long days of searching, they stumbled upon an ancient tree hidden deep within the forest. The tree was a place of great mystery and power, filled with priceless artifacts and golden treasures. But they soon discovered that they were not alone in the forest. A group of ruthless treasure hunters had also come in search of the treasure, and they were determined to stop Jack and his team from claiming it. A fierce battle ensued, with the two teams fighting tooth and nail for control of the tree. It was a dangerous and deadly struggle, with both sides suffering heavy losses. But in the end, Jack and his team emerged victorious, claiming the treasure as their own. As they made their way out of the forest, their pockets full of gold and jewels, Jack and his team felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. They had braved incredible dangers and overcome impossible odds, and they had found